Right now, somewhere in a DWP database, your name might already be sitting on a list. Not because you've done anything wrong, because of one small detail in your finances that nobody ever told you to watch for. Last month, a viewer of this channel, a man in his 70s on pension credit, got a letter. He hadn't lied about anything. He hadn't hidden a penny. But a figure on a form was 12 months out of date, and that was enough to start a review that took him 8 weeks to close. If you receive pension credit, universal credit, or ESA, the rules around how the DWP checks your eligibility changed this year, and most people won't find out until a letter like his lands on their own doormat. Before I go any further, subscribe to this channel right now. This is where I break down DWP changes before they make the headlines, not after. Hit that button, then come back, because you'll want to see this through to the end. By the time this video finishes, you'll have a 5-point checklist to make sure your finances are review ready, whether a letter arrives next week or never arrives at all. We're going to make sure you're never the one scrambling like he was. And here's the question I want you to sit with for the next few minutes. If the DWP legally cannot see your individual transactions, and they can't, then what exactly triggers a review? The answer isn't what most people assume. Stay with me, because step 3 on this checklist is the one almost nobody prepares for. Phase 1. What actually triggers a review? So here's the truth behind the headlines, because the headlines have got a lot of people frightened of the wrong thing. Under new powers introduced through the Public Authorities Fraud, Error and Recovery Act, banks can now be legally required to flag accounts linked to certain benefits if those accounts cross a savings threshold. For universal credit and pension credit, that threshold is £16,000. The mechanism is called an eligibility verification notice, and it's sent directly to a bank or building society, not to you. Now here's the part that matters, and it's the part most coverage of this glossed over. The law specifically stops the DWP from seeing your spending. No shopping receipts, no list of who paid you what, or when, or why. They get a flag that an indicator's been crossed, plus a name and a date of birth. That's the legal limit. The government was explicit about this in its own published fact sheets, partly because the backlash to anything resembling bank spying was loud enough that ministers had to keep clarifying it publicly. And if you're watching this and you only receive the basic state pension, not pension credit, not universal credit, none of this particular power touches you at all. The state pension isn't means tested, so there's no savings threshold to cross in the first place. I want to be clear about that, because the last thing I want is anyone watching this panicking over a power that simply doesn't apply to their payment. So if it isn't your weekly shop or a birthday gift from your daughter, what actually starts a review? In practice, it tends to be one of 3 things. The first is your declared savings creeping over the threshold for your specific benefit. That's the one the new power is built around. The second is a change in circumstances that hasn't been reported. Someone moves in with you. You inherit a property and don't mention it, because in your head it doesn't count, since you're not renting it out. These are the gaps that surface through cross-referencing with HMRC and the Land Registry, not from anyone watching your bank balance day to day. The third is simply being selected for a routine check. The DWP runs scheduled reviews on existing claims as standard practice. These are sometimes called targeted case reviews, and on their own, they are not an accusation. Most people who receive a review letter haven't done anything wrong. That third one is the bit that catches people off guard, and it's the entire reason this checklist exists. You don't need to have done anything dodgy to get a review letter, you just need to be due one. So let's make sure that when yours comes, if it comes, you're already standing on solid ground. Phase 2, the 5-point review ready checklist. This is the part you came for. 5 things to put in place now so that if a letter ever arrives, you're not starting from zero. Step 1, the paper trail. When the DWP opens a review, the request is usually for the last 3 to 6 months of bank statements. I want you holding on to 12 going forward, organised by month, with anything unusual labelled in your own handwriting. Why 12 when they might only ask for 3? 2 reasons. First, reviews sometimes expand. If a decision maker spots something interesting in month 3, the next request is often, now send us the rest of the year. If you've already got it sorted, that second request stops being stressful. It's just printing what you've already organised. Second, a year of clean labelled statements does something psychological as well as practical. It tells whoever's reading them that you're someone who keeps good records. And people who keep good records tend to get less scrutiny, not more. Most banks let you download statements as PDFs going back well over a year through online or telephone banking. If you're not confident doing that yourself, this is a perfect job to hand to a son, daughter or grandchild for 15 minutes on a Sunday afternoon, and you're covered for the next 12 months. Step 2, know your own in payments. Let me be precise about what this step actually is, because I've worded it carefully. This is not about the DWP secretly tracking your transfers. We've just established they can't, that data doesn't reach them under the current rules. This step is about you being ready to explain a payment if you're ever asked, months after the fact, when your own memory of it has gone fuzzy. Picture this. A decision maker is going through your statements and sees £200 landing in your account 4 months ago. They ask what it was. If you can say, that's my late husband's pension lump sum being released, here's the letter from the provider, the review closes in an afternoon. If you say, I genuinely don't remember, that single payment can stretch a straightforward review into weeks of back and forth, simply because nobody can rule anything out without evidence. So here's the practical version. Once a month, glance at your statement and jot 1 line next to anything that isn't your usual pension or benefit payment, who it's from and why. A notebook by the kettle works fine. You don't need software. 30 seconds, once a month, and the discipline to actually do it. The goal isn't paranoia about being watched. It's making sure future you, 4 months from now, doesn't have to play detective with your own bank account. Step 3, the asset check, the one almost everybody skips. When people think about benefit reviews, they think purely in terms of the number sitting in their current account. But capital limits don't only count cash. They also count second properties you own but don't live in, certain life insurance policies with a cash-in value, premium bonds, ISAs, and shares. Here's a pattern I see again and again. Someone inherits a small flat from a parent 15 years ago. They've never sold it, never seriously rented it out. In their head, it's not money. It's just bricks and mortar, completely separate from their savings. But to a decision maker assessing capital, it's an asset with a value, and that value can push someone over a threshold they had no idea they were anywhere near. So here's what I want you to do this week, not eventually. Make a short list of anything you own that isn't the home you live in. For each item, write down roughly what it's worth today, not what you paid for it 20 years ago. If you genuinely don't know the current value of an old policy or a small flat, that's fine. A quick call to the insurer or a glance at property prices for similar flats nearby gets you close enough. This single step resolves more review headaches than almost anything else on this list, because it's the piece of information people are most likely to have simply never thought about. If you've made it this far, you're already ahead of most people watching this. but the next two steps matter just as much, so stay with me. Step 4. Know your disclosures. You've heard me say this before on this channel, and it's worth repeating, because under stress, people get it backwards. You are required to be honest. You are not required to volunteer your entire life story. If a review letter or a phone call asks about your finances, answer precisely what's been asked, accurately, and then stop talking. I've seen people, out of nervousness, start explaining things nobody asked about. Old family disagreements over money, unrelated debts from decades ago, their general opinion of the benefits system. Every extra detail you offer is something a decision maker now has to read, consider, and potentially follow up on. You haven't helped your case, you've just made it longer and given them more to ask about. So if the question is, can you explain this £200 payment in March? The answer is the source of that payment and nothing more. Precision protects you, oversharing doesn't. Step 5. Run your own pre-review check. Go to Experian or TransUnion. Both let you check your own credit report, and TransUnion's free version is genuinely free. No card details required. Look at every account showing against your name, not just the ones you use day to day. Here's why this matters so much. People accumulate forgotten accounts over a lifetime. A building society account opened for a child back in the 1990s that still has £400 sitting in it. A workplace savings scheme from a job you left a decade ago. None of this is fraud, none of it is hidden on purpose. But if it surfaces during a review and you didn't mention it because you'd genuinely forgotten it existed, it looks worse coming from them finding it than it would have looked coming from you declaring it yourself. So once a year, make it a January job alongside everything else January brings. Pull your credit report, go through it line by line, and ask yourself honestly, do I know what every single one of these is? If the answer's no, even for one of them, track it down before a review ever forces you to do it against a deadline. Phase 3. If the letter arrives. If that letter does land, here's what to do. You'll usually be given 14 days to provide whatever evidence has been requested. If you genuinely need longer, illness, hospital stay, a death in the family, contact them straight away and ask for an extension. Don't simply miss the deadline and hope. Rule 1. Never send original documents. Send clear photocopies by recorded delivery and keep your own copy of everything you've sent. Rule 2. Start a communication log. Every call, date, time, who you spoke to, what was said. If this ever escalates to a mandatory reconsideration or a tribunal, that log stops becoming I said, they said, and starts being evidence. People who keep one consistently report it, making the process less stressful, simply because they're not relying on memory under pressure. A DWP review is stressful. It doesn't have to be a disaster. Being organised is most of the battle, and now you've got the checklist to prove it. If you found this useful, subscribe. This channel exists to get you this kind of breakdown before it's everywhere else, not after the panic's already started. If you want to understand exactly how your bank fits into all this, I've covered it in detail in The One Bank Mistake, links right here. And if you've had a review letter recently, tell me in the comments what time frame they gave you. It genuinely helps everyone watching to know what's happening right now, not just what the rules say on paper. Stay organised and stay one step ahead.